From the northern icescapes of the Arctic Circle to the southernmost extremes of Antarctica, winter prowls the Earth from top to bottom, conjuring up scenes of wondrous beauty and stark severity. Breathtaking in spectacle, but often harsh environments to call home. Those that do live here thrive here through amazing adaptations and animal cunning. It's survival of the fittest, the fastest, and the fearless. A cycle of life where being strong, smart, and shrewd can mean the difference between life and death. Because in this extraordinary world of ice and snow, only the most resilient and resourceful will endure. The wild winter. Late September in the polar north. And as the Earth turns away from the sun, an autumnal twilight sets in. By mid-October, the tip of the globe will be in total darkness, and most of the Arctic Circle will see only glimpses of light. In northern Canada, the coastal landscape has frozen into a jagged icescape. Soon the temperature could plummet to -40 degrees Celsius. Yet polar bears like this young mother are on the move in a relentless hunt for seals. She and her adolescent cubs will trek approximately 30 kilometers today in search of food. Just meters beneath the family's feet is the prey they depend on for survival. Arctic seals have adapted to stay underwater for up to 45 minutes, because to surface is to become vulnerable. But eventually they need to come up for air. Who will see the other first? This is a game many thousands of years in the making. The bear waits. The seal holds on to what could be its final breath. But the bear and the seal are not alone. An Arctic fox trails the polar bear in the hope of scavenging some of her leftovers. For the fox tagging along, it's a gamble worth taking. But unsurprisingly, it's not welcome. The harsh Arctic winter binds the fates of these three animals together. But the polar bear is this region's ruler. Little about the weather or wildlife affects her. To survive and thrive here, she has adapted from head to toe. Her double-layered fur coat keeps her warm and dry, blanketing her head, her body, and legs. Even her huge dinner plate-sized paws. These hairy feet of hers have adapted to act like snowshoes, distributing her weight as she walks and preventing her from slipping or falling through the ice as she stalks the frozen ocean. Each hollow hair on her coat is a clear cylindrical tube that reflects ambient light. Capturing and storing warm air close to her skin, preserving precious heat. And creating the artful white camouflage that serves her well when stalking prey. Spotting a seal emerging for air. The bear's approach needs to be stealthy. Her camouflage, an advantage. But the seal is not on the ice for long and quickly escapes back into the water. The bear will continue wandering the ice on her hunt for food. But the bigger loser is the little Arctic fox. For all the energy he spent keeping pace with the polar bear, there's no reward. And he's left out in the cold. Winter in the Earth's high northern latitudes has many guises. 2,000 kilometers north of Norway is the spectacular Svalbard archipelago. Cold Arctic Ocean currents mix with the warmer currents that flow from the Atlantic, resulting in a partially ice-covered ocean during winter. Battered by the winds of the Arctic Circle, a mother walrus and her calf huddle together. Resting on floating sea ice is usually a colder environment for them than the ocean waters below. But it's a safer place to be. The large walrus only has two predators, polar bears and killer whales. And in winter, killer whales stalk the northern oceans in large, deadly pods. But to avoid starvation, walrus must risk potential encounters with the killer whales and take to the ocean, because this is where they will find the shellfish that will sustain them through winter. Despite the risks, walruses spend the majority of their lives hunting in water, returning to the exposed chill of the ice to rest. But they are perfectly adapted to these conditions. Their bodies are swathed in insulating blubber that can be up to 15 centimeters thick. Their ears are just small holes. Having no external appendage helps conserve heat. Underwater, their torpedo-like shape is a lifesaver. They swim swiftly, and if threatened, can escape at speeds of up to 35 kilometers per hour. Their long and strong tusks allow the walrus to break breathing holes in the ice. Or haul their massive bodies onto drier land. Which, between feeding bouts, is where they'll safely rest. When the oceans of the Arctic Circle freeze, the marine animals that remain here all face the same harsh challenge: ice. But they have each developed individual ways of coping with the struggle of life in these conditions. Here, in the winter waters between Canada and Western Greenland, the sea ice is hardening and thickening. For these narwhals, pack ice can be deadly. Narwhals need to regularly surface for air. But if they can't find a gap in the frozen block, they will become trapped underwater, unable to breathe. That's why these males' distinctive spiral tusks are such a vital adaptation. Sometimes referred to as the unicorns of the sea, scientists have discovered the narwhal's tusk is actually a supremely sensitive tooth with 10 million nerve endings. But this tooth is not for eating. Instead, it's believed the 3-meter-long tusk is used as a sensor to read the saltiness and temperature of the ocean, making it possible for these fairy tale-like creatures to surface effortlessly. The narwhal's near relative is the equally intriguing beluga whale. Neither the narwhal nor the beluga have fins on their backs. This means their bodies have reduced surface area, helping prevent heat loss. And without such an obstacle, they can travel closely under the ice sheets, giving easy access to breathing holes. These beluga whales have camouflage on their side too. While the male narwhal can be easily spotted on the surface, beluga whales are camouflaged against the Arctic ice. In the years since they were born, their skin has turned from grey to gleaming white. A highly effective adaptation to fool predators. As they dive and reappear, beluga whales' bodies are easily mistaken for small ice floe, bobbing up and down. In some deeper water regions of the Arctic Circle, the winter ice cover can be up to 10 meters thick. Beneath it, there is total darkness, with no warmth from sunlight. But for this 100-year-old Greenland shark, the water temperature is positively invigorating. Typically, these bottom dwellers spend much of their time in depths up to 2 kilometers beneath the surface. No other shark can tolerate such freezing Arctic waters all year round. In fact, Greenland sharks purposely migrate to the ocean's coldest parts, even during winter. They thrive here in this quiet, almost lifeless environment. And a slow metabolism conserves their energy. To stay warm in these frigid currents, the shark's body contains a special chemical compound that acts like an antifreeze, preventing ice crystals forming. No other vertebrate has a lifespan as long as this species, with some scientists suggesting they can live for 500 years. Despite this, Greenland shark populations are thought to have declined, and they are currently listed as vulnerable. But with no known predators in the wild, slow and steady is how this fantastic and fearsome old fish will see out his days. Deep down in the ocean, very little changes visually, regardless of day or night. However, back on land, twilight signals the end of another short day. And complete darkness is where the polar north shows its true colors. The aurora borealis. Dancing ribbons of light that shimmer and pulse across the sky, caused by the sun's energy interacting with the Earth's magnetic field. This dazzling display is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Few natural phenomena are as spectacular as the Northern Lights. And as a new day breaks across the freezing tundra of the Canadian archipelago, herds of musk oxen make a meal of the lichen and fungi growing under the snowy surface. These beasts are living examples of evolution at its finest. After all, they are one of the few species to have survived the last ice age. Musk oxen bodies are shielded by their billowing hair, the outer hairs measuring up to 1 meter in length, the longest fur of any wild animal. And they have a second line of insulating defense. A warm woolen undercoat that's 10 centimeters thick. And as for their unusual box-like shape, it's a simple evolutionary formula to battle the blizzards. And this is what will help them live to fight another day on the barren flats of the Arctic tundra. Polar winters are, by their very geography, the most extreme winters on Earth. But there are other places where winters are less harsh and more of a beauty to behold. Winter in Switzerland, just over 2,000 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle, often brings clear skies and crisp air, even during the coldest winter months. Of the many animals that have developed foraging strategies and thick coats to see them through this time of year, the Eurasian otter has to also endure being cold and wet simultaneously. Otters are homeotherms, which means it's a juggling act to regulate their body temperature, to balance the heat they lose in the water with the heat produced internally. So plunging into the freezing cold water beneath the ice could cause their core temperature to drop dangerously low. If it weren't for their sophisticated waterproof coat. The outer layer is a dense weave of interlinked hairs. And the thick undercoat traps an insulating layer of air so their skin stays dry. The otter dives to hunt for food, staying warm and dry for up to 5 minutes underwater. And when they're not hunting or swimming, they spend a lot of their time preening. Not to look good, but for protection. Because if their fur becomes dirty, their coat won't absorb the air that insulates them, putting these otherwise hearty animals at risk of hypothermia. With the Swiss Alps towering over the lowlands, during winter, cold air from the north and moist air from the west rises above the iconic range, generating dense snowfall, cloaking the trees and ground. And in the dim forest light, the sight of this lone lynx in the Alps is cause for celebration for conservationists the world over. Just 50 years ago, this species was extinct here. But the cold climate cats have bounced back, thanks to a Swiss reintroduction program and a nationwide hunting ban. Today, this adult lynx is more at home than ever. Despite incessant snowfall and an air temperature of -10 degrees, the conditions are considered relatively cozy for such a fully adapted feline. His coat is long and soft for warmth. His big cat tail is small to help conserve heat. And this may allow him to maneuver quickly through dense forest without getting caught or hindered. And his wide, furry feet provide traction and can support twice as much weight on the snow, meaning he is able to stalk his prey with ease. Hunting, traveling, and living alone, this forest dweller's winter adaptations have created one of Eurasia's stealthiest predators. No matter the animal or their habitat, winter tests all evolutionary abilities. The capability to conserve energy, maintain body temperature, and secure food sources. In Scandinavia, the reindeers in this herd have grown smart seasonal coats to withstand the -20-degree temperatures that are not uncommon. Their coat has 2 layers, a warm and woolly undercoat and a hairy top layer. And like the polar bear, the outer layer hairs are in fact hollow, creating a very effective insulation. So effective that a reindeer can lie down without melting the snow under it. When seen through thermal imaging, the purple areas of its coat are giving off barely any warmth whatsoever, minimizing heat loss from their core body. The areas of white and orange are the most exposed in terms of heat loss. Reindeer possess something called a countercurrent heat exchange. This allows them to recycle heat so the heart doesn't need to work as hard. Like many animals, reindeer have a layer of tissue behind the retina that reflects light, enhancing their night vision. They also have an adaptation that's never been observed in any other mammal, the changing of eye color in sync with the seasons. In summer, reindeer's eyes are gold, but in winter, the color changes to a deep blue. This color change reduces the amount of light reflected out of the eye, meaning reindeer can quite literally see in the dark. An advantage when it comes to spotting predators in the low light of winter. For all their superb adaptations, reindeer are highly dependent on the health and heartiness of the great swathes of conifer forest, mainly as a food source, but also for protection from the harsh winds and the freezing cold winter temperatures. High up in the trees themselves, there are a whole new set of winter residents, also managing to combat the cold. Very few birds remain in the north during winter, but those that do are hardy. Colourful pine grosbeaks live year-round in the woodlands in Northern America and the evergreen forests of Eurasia. Like many birds that live in the forests in winter, their constant shivering and movement generates heat to withstand the freezing temperatures. Though they will travel long distances for food, pine grosbeaks are a non-migratory bird, living off seeds, fruit, buds, and berries, scarcer during winter. A remarkably similar-looking bird to the pine grosbeak, though not related, is the robin. Like pine grosbeaks, many robins also stay put during the winter months. They fluff up their feathers to trap warm air close to their little bodies. And they can digest the often unpalatable waxy berry coatings, so they gorge happily on any food they can find at this time of year. An extendable esophagus also means they can feast on the berries for as long as they are available, storing the fruit there until they settle in for the night. The boreal forests that are home to these songbirds are also home to spruce, fir, and pine trees, collectively known as conifers. And these majestic forests of conifers are as rich and resilient throughout the winter as they are in the summer. Unlike other trees that shed their leaves when the temperature drops, conifers are evergreens. Often the branches are hidden under a heavy blanket of snow, or sometimes covered with delicate ice crystals, depending on the extremely unpredictable winter weather. To combat this weather, conifers enter a type of hibernation. They stop growing in the coldest months. Conserving their moisture when there's surprisingly little life-giving rainfall. Their small and waxy needles have adapted to prevent water evaporating into the atmosphere. A variation that helps keep them hydrated through even the bleakest cold season. Living deep within the freezing forests of Finland is the brown bear. During winter, the brown bear's food sources are significantly depleted. So to avoid the cold weather and lack of food, they hibernate. This brown bear is pregnant, and in a matter of months, she'll give birth to 2 or 3 cubs. During autumn, she ate to excess to build up her fat stores, built her maternity den, and is now resting peacefully in it. Her fat stores will give her enough energy to live through the winter and to deliver her cubs. This shelter will be her hideout for the next 6 or 7 months, and it's where her babies will be born. Settled inside, she enters a light hibernation or torpor state, where she will doze on and off. She won't eat, drink, or pass waste. Her pulse rate, breathing, and body temperature will drop to help her conserve energy. But she'll be on high alert, ready to defend herself and her unborn or her newborn cubs, if necessary. She's of a species of bear that's evolved superbly to survive these long, harsh northern winters. Her strategy? Doing as little as possible. With the low-lying forests of Finland now in nightfall. Far to the east, in the Himalayas, the sun soon dawns on an entirely different kind of winter's day for its high-altitude inhabitants. Like the polar bear is to the Arctic Circle, here, 5,000 meters above sea level, the snow leopard is the top of the food chain. But when it comes to its prey, it faces competition from wolves and Himalayan brown bears. Known to locals as the ghosts of the mountains, adult snow leopards live a solitary existence, prowling the steepest and rockiest ridges of the Himalayan slopes. Yet they're never troubled by the thin air of this ultra-high altitude. Thanks to their broad, muscular chest, they can take breaths deep enough to absorb plenty of oxygen. As the air passes into their wide nose, the nasal cavity warms it before it hits their lungs. The dense, spotted coat offers excellent camouflage and insulation against the cold. And the unusually long, thick tail is insulating too. The snow leopard's adaptations do the trick. Largely unaffected by the wild weather of their mountain domain, until the comfort of a meal brightens the end of another winter's day in the high Himalayan mountains. As the days start to get longer in the northern hemisphere, and winter begins its transition into spring and eventually summer, below the Earth's equator, the seasons of the southern hemisphere are changing also. In the far South Pacific, the temperate coasts and snow-capped peaks of New Zealand have fallen into their own winter season for another year. And in the alpine country of the South Island, 𝗥𝗲𝗹 is making the most of its winter's day. A very social bird, 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗀 often gather in groups at this time of year, calling out to each other as a way of strengthening social bonds. Listed as nationally endangered, the 𝗥𝗲𝗹 is the world's only alpine parrot. As ground-nesting birds, 𝗥𝗲𝗹s are especially vulnerable to attacks from human-introduced species, such as possums and feral cats. But this intelligent little bird, called the clever clown of the Alps, exhibits the problem-solving skills of a 4-year-old child. And are known for their mischievous and destructive habits. Despite these antics, they are much loved by locals. And easily spotted by the orange colour of their inner wings. Their olive-coloured outer feathers keep them warm during the cold New Zealand winters. The far South Pacific is as rugged as it is beautiful, especially during winter. But for the animals who inhabit the subantarctic islands, it's also a time of wild seas and wilder winds. One animal that's perfectly adapted to make the most of winter's intense weather is the albatross. Over the coming few months of bitter cold, this adult female will need to withstand the blustery winds. Unable to consistently flap their wings, they use their 3.5-meter wingspan to catch the currents. A sheet of tendon around their shoulders locks their wings into place, helping them glide gracefully without expending excess energy. If the breeze is up, they'll be absent and airborne for up to 9 days, during which time they can fly up to 5,000 kilometers with ease. When the winds don't blow, they take time out to rest on the ocean surface and quench their thirst with seawater. This is the ultimate adaptation. These brilliant birds have a salt gland near their nasal passage that filters salt from the seawater, keeping them hydrated. And ready to continue their wanderings as they ride the winds of the great Southern Ocean. Winter in the Southern Hemisphere, also known as the austral winter, is at its most severe in the world's southernmost continent, Antarctica, where the ocean is transformed into a place of ice and snow. Winter in the polar south is extreme, but awe-inspiring. And so are the animals that live here. Standing at over 1 meter tall, the giants of the penguin world, the emperor penguin eats, sleeps, and breeds only on the southern sea ice. They rarely step onto the solid ground, as their colonies are on sea ice. Waddling rather than walking, this one's well dressed for the world's most extreme cold. Their tuxedo-looking feathers form an effective windbreak. 2 layers of plumage, soft down close to the skin, and shorter outer feathers are especially useful when the wind gusts at more than 100 kilometers an hour. And despite being an aquatic bird that gets wet often, the penguin's feathers never freeze. They preen regularly to spread oil from a gland near their tail, creating a simple but practical waterproof shield. That big belly isn't just a convenient way to get around. This emperor is carrying a bulk of blubber. And although the largest penguin species, proportionately, they have smaller beaks and flippers than other penguins to help prevent heat loss. With feathers on their legs to keep their ankles warm, their happy feet are also a miracle of movement. Fat stores in the soles prevent them icing over, even when the temperature's at a bone-chilling -50 degrees. This wondrous creature benefits from inbuilt thermals and frostbite-free feet. From the penguins of the polar south to the polar bears of the Arctic. What all these cold weather birds, mammals, and fish have in common is the wonder of evolution. With smart and sophisticated safeguards or protections that are surprisingly simple, the animals of these punishing environments endure and excel, despite the cold, the wind, and the darkness. Their bodies have developed in ways that often seem inconceivable, but without their amazing adaptations,